Peace, peace and blessings. Um, as always, I appreciate you all for spending time watching these videos, commenting, offering your feedback, and great suggestions. Quite frankly, a lot of great suggestions, and I'm truly grateful for them. I'm doing my best out here, striving to add to the community. I do a lot of volunteer work. I was just speaking via Zoom to some juveniles in a detention center, and I will continue to do so. It's not my first time, but I will continue to do so. Like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, some more serious than others. And, I've dealt with the consequences and still live with the consequences, whether in my heart, my mind, or just in, life in general. So, you all out there who are watching these videos, you discern rightly that it's from the heart. It's no gimmicks with me. It's no acting. It's serious. And I just want to reach, people who are willing to listen. I've acquired a degree of knowledge through books and experience, and just being honest with myself, looking in that mirror and just, really studying who I am. And that way, if you're honest with yourself, after studying yourself, then you can usually, be honest with other people. So thank you all, and know that, I appreciate you. I want to speak about it's another wild tale. And let me preface this by saying I wasn't there, but I know the guy who was involved, like personally. I met him when I first got locked up at Greensville. A decent enough guy, really, decent enough. He was an older guy from Hampton, Virginia, and he had just, when I got to Greensville, came to Greensville because he got into a situation, and this was the situation. And this is why sometimes you have to watch those you're around when you're doing criminal activity in wrong. The old saying is there no honor among thieves. And there's truth to that. You have people that do wrong and they'll say the terminology today is keeping it 100, keeping it real, they stand up, But when you do wrong, it takes a certain mentality, to commit wrong. So this is why when people more often not have co-defendants, people turn. Because in doing wrong, usually those who love them or those who are right can come along and convince them to turn, because they're doing wrong. And our natures are inclined to do right. So, you have a lot of people out there, man, that when they do wrong, they aren't to be trusted. Now that they're living that wrong life, a person that makes a mistake or, does one thing or whatever, they may not be engrossed in that lifestyle, in that particular mentality. But those who are living that constant life, those who are out there shooting every day, you have to watch them. Those who are out there stealing, kleptomaniac style, stealing from everything, stealing from everybody, you have to watch them because they're eventually going to steal from you. Those who are out there just bad mouthing everybody, you turn your back, they're gonna bad mouth you, so we have to be careful. And so this is why I'm telling this tale. The guy that I'm talking about from Hampton, he used to sleep with men, and he wasn't always kind about it. He was at one time one of those booty bandits that I spoke about earlier, and to be frank, a homosexual and a rapist, because that's what he was into when he got locked up. He was a small guy. But he was dangerous in his own right. He wasn't locked up for helping people across the street and picking flowers, right? So, but when I came across him, he had grown. He was still involved with a man. He had a guy in his cell that he was involved with, and they were a couple, for all intents and purposes. But he was at another compound that I was at, Nottoway, just before him and I, met, and that was only because he was what they call the IRG representative at one time at Greensville, and the unit I was on, A unit. He was IRG stands for Inmate Representative Advocate. Inmate Representative. The G stood for yeah. I can't recall because you know that those it changes over the years. You know, it'll be something else. But he basically was one of the inmates from each pod. They had an inmate that would speak for the inmates, and they would meet with the warden, and they would meet with some of the officials in the prison. And let's say we wanted better canteen food. We wanted, you know, different sodas. We might have got, you know, Coca-Cola and ginger ale and, you know, something called Mr. Pibb at one time. And after about, you know, 7, 8, 9 months, you know, people want to change. So the IRG representative will go around the pod and ask everybody, you know, man, we about to have a meeting over there with the warden and what y'all want. He'll write a list down, and then we'll, you know, have other issues. We want more rec. You know, we want basketball back, or we want the basketball rims to be fixed. And so, you know, there are moments when the administration is receptive to, you know, giving us some of the things we ask for if the behavior in the prison or our pods are, you know, fairly peaceful, fairly, you know, easy going, you know, by the standards of the prison system. So he was one of those. And so that's how I got to meet him. But he had just came out the hole because he was at another prison. What happened was he was in the cell, you know, sweeping everybody was in the rec yard, and he was in the cell sweeping and cleaning his room. And, you know, one time the prison system used to be kind of open, meaning that people was in each other's cells, and that wasn't right that they weren't your roommates, you know, but people were coming and going from different pods, and you saw a lot of it way back when. You know, now it's like every door is closed, every window is locked, you know, everything is counted. So you think you're going up in another pod, they have cameras everywhere, especially in the Virginia system. I'm not sure in the other system, but in Virginia, they had cameras like 5, 6, 7 in a pod. And this is, you know, all documented. So he was in the cell cleaning. He had a homeboy. He, like I said, he was from Hampton. So he had another homeboy from Hampton, another older guy. And when I say older, when I met him, I was 17. So he had to be like 30, 38, right? So him and his homeboy, they were roughly the same age. And both were engaged in the same lifestyle, you know, involved with men. So his homeboy, you know, looked at him a certain way because he was small, short, slim, used to wear a little robe, you know, to and from the shower. And when he was on the street, he had a lot of pictures of him on the street. He, you know, he thought of himself as a ladies' man, you know, suits and hats and, you know, always going to clubs, but he, you know, he stepped out like that. And so his homeboy, you know, a little more aggressive when it came to dealing with, you know, men. They were, you know, he was cleaning his homeboy and they were smoking weed. So CO came in, the homeboy kind of hid behind these tall lockers that they used to have. So the guy, he's sweeping and cleaning. He going there, CO lead the cell. His homeboy passed the joint to him. They smoking. The homeboy looked at him straight. And this is from his own mouth. His homeboy looked at him and said, "What's up?" And so he was like, what you mean? What's up? And so his homeboy said, "What's up?" He said, "What's up with you, homeboy?" And this is what he's telling me. You know, this is verbatim. He was like, "What you talking about, homeboy?" And he said his homeboy literally took his hand and slid him down his shorts. He said he was stunned at first because he did it so like slow. He said he just put his hand on his lower back and slid him down his shorts. And so he said he was stoned because this was his homeboy. I mean, they walked the yard together. And in his mind, he doesn't display the characteristics of someone who is a recipient, you know what I mean, of the penis. Like, you know, in his mind, he's the giver, not the taker. So he doesn't see like how his homeboy could even come at him like that. This is what he said. So as he's telling me the story, he's like, "Man, I was blown, bro." He said, "Man, it was just like me for real." And he said he looked at his homeboy like, "Man, you for real? Me?" His homeboy was like, "Shh, man." And this is exactly what he said. He said, "Man, you'll do something." And he said his homeboy hit the J and looked at him. He said, "Man, you wild, man. You wild, man. Go on, man. Go on about your business, man." So his homeboy left the cell. So about 2, 3 days later, his homeboy was at another cell. Same pod, was at another cell. And above the cells, you have the numbers, it's like these coverings for the door mechanisms that open and close the door, the motor. So he said he had his hand, the other guy had his hand up on the motors, talking to a guy in this door frame of another cell. So he said he's just kind of rocking back and forth, talking. And he said he just looked at him, but he had already plotted. He said he looked at him. And he said, bro, I had the lock in a sock. He said, I had 2 locks actually in a sock. And you basically take a, regular sock and throw in 2 combination locks, and you tie a knot so that when you grip it, the swing won't slide the sock out your hand. So you put a knot at the back of it. He said, so he walked, and he was just walking like towards the telephone. So, he's only like 2 or 3 feet away from the guy the way the pod was angled. He said he came up from behind him and hit that man in the back of his head. Boom. He said the guy fell forward. He hit him again. He was on his knee this time. He said, so when he was bleeding, blood pouring out his head, he said he's, like holding on, but he kind of and he said he tipped him over on his back. He said, and the guy he was talking to in the cell kind of just jumped back. He said he pulled out the knife, which was an ice pick, and started hitting him in his chest. He said he hit him like 4 times. He said he missed his heart every time. He said he hit him. And the guy that he was actually talking to, the guy he had struck and stabbing, the guy he was talking to in the cell, regained his bearings, and he, grabbed him and pulled him off of him. He said when he pulled him off of him, he said he just felt like he was going to hit him in the right spot. He said he don't know how. He just was kind of, frustrated. He wasn't like thinking that, he wasn't hitting him in the heart. He thought he was, but he was kind of hitting him around the heart, So the guy lived, and the guy, basically has those pucker marks. He's still in the system. When I left, he was still locked up, and he had pucker marks around his heart. And so that, that was a serious story. So they locked up the guy from Hampton. They locked him up. They put him in the hole. They didn't give him any particular charge other than assault. That landed him like 30 days in the hole. He came back. No, he didn't come back out. He was shipped. He was shipped to, where I was, which was Greensville at the time. And, and as we got to know one another, he didn't tell me the story the first day. We got to know one another over a little period of time, I think a couple months. We were talking about just, the prison system in general and life, and in the system, because like I say, a couple of the guys that I was cool with, was like, they would go to him because he was the IRG representative. So he was always the one you kind of had to speak to about trying to add something to the canteen list or get something pushed to the administration. So I say that to say that there are a lot of sexual assaults in prison, a lot of sexual assaults. And though today in the Virginia system, they are not as prominent, they really aren't. They were. And there are some that look at this and they don't believe it. They watch TV and the movie comes on, things happen, and those movies go off. You saw it with Shawshank Redemption. You saw it with Lockdown, Master P's movie. You saw it with Blood In and Blood Out. Usually once the credits roll, you leave out, you back in your life. But, the people that have been assaulted, who've been raped, who've been taken advantage of, it's not a story to them. It's not an act to them. I myself have never witnessed, a person being raped or being assaulted. That the people that I've talked to, the people that I've been around, or the people that I know that have, I've spoken to them. I have stopped guys from even thinking to do those things to guys, or pulling up on guys in those foul manners. I have, and there are some people, like I said, on watching this page that can attest to these things. But there's so much that goes on in prison. There's so much. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of tales. They say there are over 2 million people, 2-point-something million people in prison. That's 2-point-something million people's stories. And many people don't want to put those stories out. Many people don't want to share because everybody's not evolved. Everyone has not grown in prison. Some people were doing, and I know a guy that when I made parole did drugs the day before he was released. He had just made parole after doing 20-something years. He was an older guy, about 53 or 54, maybe a little older. I think he was a little older. And he was doing drugs, dope, up until the day he left prison, honestly. So, but I tell this story because I want people to know that there are those who have fought back, many, and they prevailed. Some things that have happened to some people have been karma. I do believe in karma. You know, me being put in prison myself, I earned that with my stupidity and my ignorance. You know, I earned that. That was karma. You know, and a lot of people that are in there should be in there, and there are many that should not be in there. There are many who should be incarcerated, but should not be with the same with certain guys who are like monsters. There's some guys who are irredeemable right now. They are who they are, and they will not change because they're either comfortable with where they are or their minds are just geared that way now, you know, and that is, you know, that's a terrible thing, you know, that's a terrible thing. But there are those who have fought back. There are those who've been successful in their attempt to defend their, you know, their, and they call it manhood, but I don't like to term it that way. I don't, you know, because if you know, if you're raped and you fight and you lose because you've either been knocked out, and usually that's the only way, or you know what I'm saying, you fought to the bloody end, then you're still a man. You just, you know, you lost that battle, you know. So I don't like to use that term, or his manhood was taken. You know, you gave it up, you know. If you fought for yours, then that's like a woman being taken advantage of, and you're saying she's not a woman because she was taken advantage of. Nah, she's still a woman. You know, she fought, she defended herself, you know. So, but there are those who fought, and there are those who prevailed. And there are those who were victimizers. There are those who were rapists, who were dealt with harshly because they attempted that, you know, with people. And so, you know, again, it's a lot that goes on in there, and it's a lot to talk about. And it's a lot that needs to be exposed. And there are a lot of people that need therapy. There are a lot of people that need therapy. And, you know, if you know people out there who are suffering these demons, in their mind and their soul, their spirit, listen to them with a sincere ear. Listen to them. And if you can't offer advice, just offer your ear, offer your heart. And, you know, just be authentic. Just be authentic with people. And let us continue to grow together. You know, and to me, that's the best way. And some will and some won't. So thank you all again. Honestly, thank you all for listening. Thank you for your comments. Continue to do so. I appreciate you. Continue to share, continue to like, continue to subscribe, and continue to, you know, push my videos in the areas that they may be most useful. Like I say, I want these in the hands of the youth. I want these in the hands of juvenile facilities, jails, and prisons, because, you know, something I'm saying may impact someone to make them do and become better. I was impacted, you know, to do and become better by the advice and the strength and the courage of others. And so I appreciate them, and I appreciate you. Have a good day. Continue to take care of yourselves, and continue to strive to do and be better.